The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Happy Thursday, everybody. All right. Your boy is back on track. I think we're going to have a 4-podcast week this week because I am going to do one tomorrow as well. But listen, I wanted to just talk about a couple things. I got a lot of good and one super funny response about yesterday's episode where my buddy Dave joined me here in the Deep Shallow Dive studios. And the funny thing was somebody thought that Dave was AI. They thought that Dave was, one of these AI things that I do. But no, Dave was a real human being. And that was a real joint episode that we recorded together. So that was pretty funny. They thought he was AI. And no, Dave is real. Dave is legit. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that episode. If you didn't get a chance to listen, I actually think you should, because we talked about, a bunch of interesting topics. And obviously the most pressing topic is, just what's going on with this long range missiles that President Biden authorized Ukraine to be able to launch into Russia. And I did want to just follow up a little bit about this in terms of, what I shared yesterday with the various clips and really just give you my opinion. Again, I do not think any of these world leaders are crazy enough to initiate a nuclear strike. Okay. I definitely do not think Putin is that crazy. To be honest with you, between Putin, Biden, and Zelensky, I would probably rank it as Zelensky would do it first, Biden would do it second, and Putin would do it third. I'm telling you, and I'm gonna do a preemptive strike here. I am not getting paid by Russian anything. I wish I was actually, but I'm not. When I say that, Putin is not an idiot, and the dude is not, what he's made out to be. He is, in my opinion, an incredibly intelligent and authoritative leader. And believe it or not, I'm using the word authoritative not in a negative way. Again, like I said, and I say that because I have talked to, I wouldn't say a lot, but at least a dozen Russian people about Vladimir Putin, and they love him. They love him. Like it's insane how highly they speak of him. So think about that. If your people are speaking unbelievably highly about you, then that must mean that your people in your country like you. And so that's a reflection on who you are as a leader and who you are as a person. It's not a reflection on who you are as a leader and who you are as a person, what your quote unquote enemies think about you, or the opposite side, which in this case, honestly, is like the mainstream media here in the United States. So why would we judge Vladimir Putin based on what MSNBC, CNN, or Fox say versus judging him based on what his own people say? You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure it does, but so I don't really think we are at a risk of nuclear war. God, I hope not. I think we all should hope that, because again, I do think even though Trump's not in office, let's say this is more serious than I'm giving it credit for. I guarantee you, whether it's directly or through some entity, Trump is in touch with these guys. He's trying to calm the temperature. And then what I was talking about yesterday, which again, I'll just finish on this and then we'll move on, is what's the point of all this? Why is Biden doing this? And again, when I say Biden, it's not old man Biden. He's not making these decisions. Why is whomever is, the puppet master behind the Biden administration, which, I think has always been Obama. Why are they doing this? Do they want to the low-hanging fruit answer, and quite frankly, the checkers answer is, oh, they want to, make it as awful as possible a turnover to President Trump and make the country be in the worst possible position and hand him over the worst possible thing. That's the low-hanging fruit. That's what all these pundits are saying and all that. Again, if you haven't learned anything, I hope you realize like the checkers answer is not the real answer. The chess answer is the real answer. So another narrative or rumor that's getting talked about is that, well, if we are in a full-fledged World War III war that has nuclear possibilities, then the Democrats can implement some type of martial law and they could prevent the turnover of the presidency in January to Trump. Now, I mean, I still think that's kind of checkers. That's a checkers version, but maybe that's a little, I guess, I don't know, more possible, but I don't think that's possible as well. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of all this is. Like, why do all this if there's not, an ulterior motive? And so maybe that ulterior motive will flesh itself out over the next 30 to 45 days where we can, maybe see it a little clearer. So anyway, I wanted to start off with just kind of wrapping up on that since we talked that pretty extensively yesterday. All right, I also did want to do a little bit of additional follow-up in terms of my conversation with Dave yesterday. I think that vino affected me more than it affected him. But, though in all seriousness, what I did want to convey is, he is a very good friend of mine. And, we do have a little bit of a difference of opinion on politics. And to be honest, namely, probably on Trump, we've never really gone full into it. And maybe we will one time. Maybe we'll do that in a next episode when he comes on again. But what I love about this guy, and I'm hoping that came across yesterday, and I'm also hoping that this is something you guys can try and implement in your own lives is, even though we probably look at things a little bit differently, I think I made a joke yesterday saying I think he's got a little Trump derangement syndrome, and I don't think I have Trump worship syndrome by any stretch of the imagination, because I'm very critical about him and Republicans in general. And again, it falls into the call a spade conversation that we've had repeatedly. But, we are able to talk about these things, and we are able to, and I'm talking him and I specifically, we are able to have very, very, very good discourse about stuff and, come away from it with each of us, hopefully gaining a little bit of a different, perspective on things. And the same thing with my fraternity brother that I had mentioned, or a friend from college that I had mentioned, is the super liberal. And we had the conversation in yesterday's episode. Again, if you haven't listened to it, I really do think you should go back and listen. It was a very good episode. But, his whole take with Dr. Oz and, really fundamentally, I genuinely think it comes down to if Dr. Oz was a Democrat, he would love Dr. Oz. But the fact that he's Republican, and Dr. Oz, that is, and then my friend is super, super liberal Democrat, he's not going to like anybody on the Republican side. It's just black and white for him. And it's all on party lines. And I really, really want to stress, don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. If you are a Democrat, I'll tell you two Republicans that I'd love for you to try to poke a hole in, and that's Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. These two guys are probably the only two Republicans I can honestly say I agree with practically everything they've said, And so if you're a Democrat, poke a hole in those two guys. Let's see you do that. And if you can't, then you shouldn't not like Thomas Massie and Rand Paul just because they're Republican, okay? And then by the same token, all the Republicans, you know, there are Democrats that absolutely have good stances on things and good takes on things, and you know, you shouldn't not like them just because they're Democrats. All right, man, that ended up being a little longer than I wanted, but I hope it was a nuanced take on kind of the differences that get created if you strictly want to stay on your party's lines. And you shouldn't want to do that. Call a spade with everything. All right. I've been wanting to play this clip honestly for like 4 months now, and I just keep forgetting. So let's get into this clip and we'll talk about more things.
The American political regime and elite have become so corrupt, and that corruption is worldwide. And Putin may have decided already in his own mind that he's going to be history's actor, and he's going to take out this corruption in the West. Now, I don't want that. I don't want to see war, but I have to be a realist. Stolen elections have consequences. When you have corrupt, power-hungry, mad people like Nazis, they get dealt with.
I am totally blanking on this guy's name, but I remember when I saw this clip, I was like, wow, he brings up some very interesting points. And ironically, I completely forgot that it kind of surrounds or involves Putin, so the timing of this is good.
Serbian president warns great world conflict within 2 months. Let me just give you the full layout here of not just the recent developments, but overall developments that have led us to get here.
All right, again, I don't really remember what he's going to talk about, but I have a feeling this could be in regards to the Russian-Ukraine war. So, wow, this actually is incredibly timely.
The Western political empire of the Bushes and the Clintons and the CIA and their economic hitman, going back decades, really since the 70s, have been launching illegitimate wars, proxy wars, and doing regime change all over the world.
Oh, this is fantastic. I love what he's getting into. And again, remember, we've talked about all these topics, you know, CIA regime change, all the nefarious, crazy things that have taken place over the years where people are labeled a certain thing, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi in Libya, and then that gives them really public acceptance to therefore invade that country and pillage their natural resources.
And at first they could do it pretty easily. They had the economic power, they had the pull, and they could get away with some of this stuff. And the internationals that they would do deals with would get paid off handsomely as well. And so at first they didn't mind it. Then they realized that these U.S. power brokers were actually stealing most of their country's wealth and future. And so what did the U.S. do in response? Basically, they ramped up their game, and then they took it to war. Well, if we want to do regime change, we'll just do all-out war. We'll just go kill 1 million Iraqis. We've seen what America did in Iraq and Afghanistan and what they tried to do in Syria.
All right, really quick, I want to make 2 points. One is, honestly, you do have to leverage the fact that we have hindsight and we can look and see what happened after 9/11 and what took place in Afghanistan and Iraq. That was, I've said it before, but I'm going to keep saying it because I really do think this is important. That ended up being a 20-year forever war that cost trillions, actually $8 trillion of taxpayer money, killed over 1 million innocent Iraqi citizens. Think about that, 1 million innocent citizens. That's insane. And $8 trillion, that's insane. So all of that took place in Afghanistan and Iraq, quite frankly, 2 areas that with the military force that the United States has, we should have been able to, quote unquote, conquer those 2 countries in like a weekend, in like 1 weekend. So how does that last 20 years? So anyway, just I can't hammer that home enough, and I will continue to do that. You know, I do need to research Syria more and try and see exactly what took place there. And a lot of what took place in Syria absolutely involved Hillary Clinton. And so this guy earlier, he talked about, that power broker class of American politicians. And really that's the Bush family first and foremost. That is absolutely the Bush family first and foremost. But then that passes down to Clinton, and then it passes to the Obamas. Those really are three of the biggest power broker families in American politics that, in my opinion, are all good friends, and they work together. And that absolutely is the Uniparty, at its core. All right, let's get back to what he says about Syria.
And really, Syria was the block. Syria was where they couldn't get their regime change, and that was because Syria has strong relations with Russia, and Russia said, you know what, we've had enough of U.S. interventionism in the Middle East. We've seen enough of your blood-soaked regime changes. You're not going to do that in Syria. And so the West launched their proxy groups out there to kill people. They launched their false flags with chemical weapons, all as an attempt to remove Assad, and it never worked. And that's because Russia stood against them. That's what happened. And so Russia now kind of sees itself, Putin kind of sees itself as the only, kind of like the tank man, almost, in a way, the Tiananmen Square tank man of the international world, standing against Western proxy wars and regime change wars in the Middle East. And they were successful. Assad is still in power in Syria. And so that's when the West, with NATO, decided they would up their anti-Russian rhetoric and up their anti-Russian propaganda and up their anti-Russian agenda in Ukraine.
I'm super open to opinions on this, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, what he's talking about makes a lot of sense. And then it falls into upping the anti-Russia propaganda, and I guess take it one step further, but talking about then admitting Ukraine into NATO. And we've talked about that via Professor Jeffrey Sachs, Professor John Mearsheimer, Professor Demetrius Flautis, who was my actual guest on the podcast. Remember, all of those guys have no skin in the game. They're world-renowned professors, especially Professor Sachs and Mearsheimer. And those guys absolutely, 100%, when they say who's to blame in the Russia-Ukraine situation, their answer is always NATO and expansion of NATO and adding Ukraine to NATO. That's Russia's red line. They're adamant about that. And those guys know what they're talking about.
And they did that during Obama's years, and then Trump got in, and that kind of stopped because anti-Russia was not one of Donald Trump's policy issues, and that angered them. So that's why they lied, and they said Trump was colluding with Russia and was a Russian asset. That was obviously all a lie. So here's where it's at now.
All right, seriously, I implore those of you who have Trump derangement syndrome, please put that aside for a minute and listen to what he just said.
And they did that during Obama's years, and then Trump got in, and that kind of stopped because anti-Russia was not one of Donald Trump's policy issues, and that angered them. So that's why they lied, and they said Trump was colluding with Russia and was a Russian asset. That was obviously all a lie. So here's where it's at now.
And again, for anybody that actually took the time to research and understand the Russia collusion, complete hoax. That was such a hoax in 2016. That was Hillary Clinton and basically the Steele dossier paying off some guy to, create this fake hoax. That's all facts, man. That's all facts. I'm sorry if that is not what some of you enjoy hearing, but those are all facts. There was no Russian collusion in the 2016 election. There just wasn't. That was all a complete hoax. And, I'll have to do an episode on that because that's really been completely debunked by the Durham report and so many other things. But still, in the mainstream, I think the belief is there. So, okay, let's hear what else he says.
The leaders of the West, our political elite, are so insane, so corrupt, so criminal, that really no one in the world wants to deal with us except the same European countries that are under the same umbrella of political corruption and the New World Order Great Reset agenda with the World Economic Forum. But that's not where the world wants to go. And so China saw what Russia was doing, and Iran saw what Russia was doing, and India saw what Russia was doing. And then other countries have kind of noticed it as well, Japan, Brazil, Mexico. And so the dominoes are starting to fall. And now you have a new international power structure emerging against the West.
All right, I really don't remember what he's going to say, but I'm assuming he's going to say it's BRICS.
And that's China and Russia and Iran and India as the main factors. And then other countries that don't want to be globalists and don't want to have corrupt Western influence and World Economic Forum influence and UN influence and globalist influence like Brazil and Mexico and Japan and Turkey and many others. They see this opposition to the Western elite corruption forming, and they kind of look at it with curiosity. So your media is not telling you any of this. But the world is moving on from the corrupt political elite of the United States of America, folks. And you're being sold out right now. And you're going to be told that it's your duty and it's your job to protect the Western political elite like the Bidens, like the Clintons, like the Bushes, who are all going to tell you we have to go to war with Russia. And so what's scary about this is Putin's commitment, knowing that whatever the next move might be, it might happen in the blink of an eye, and it might change the entire landscape of the international order overnight. And so that's what Alex is talking about. And if you're not seriously considering this yourself, you don't understand how real the situation is.
All right, so he didn't specifically say BRICS, but basically that is the BRICS that we've talked about, many times, and definitely talked about it much more, maybe 6-9 months ago. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I'll have to find that guy's name. I'm literally picturing his face, but I can't remember his name. But I thought that was really interesting and a very interesting perspective. And again, I think it does tie together the concept of the Uniparty, and that Uniparty, I'm telling you, that is those families. I mean, it just is. And I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said, a gajillion times by other people, but the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, I mean, you have to throw the Bidens in there. The question will become, and seriously, I really mean this, are the Trumps part of this? And is this the ultimate con job that we're getting played, Because the con job would be that the Trumps are part of this. And this is all kind of, oh man, that is a serious, what's that word? Psyop effect, psyop if the Trumps are part of this. Now, obviously, the prevailing theory right now is no, Trump is like the breaker of chains. He's like the dude from Game of Thrones, or no, not the dude. What's her face? Khaleesi, the breaker of chains from Game of Thrones. I mean, the thought is that Trump is the one that is bringing this all to an end. And so, like I said the other day on, I forget, maybe Tuesday's episode, proof's going to be in the pudding. Proof is going to be in the pudding. Are we going to see the Epstein list? Are we going to see the Diddy list? Are we going to actually get, JFK assassination fully declassified so we totally get the truth behind that? Are we going to get the truth behind 9/11? Will he do all that stuff? I said it before. Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, all these people that really did everything that Trump supposedly stands for. Is he going to basically, set the record straight with all of that stuff? So anyway, we shall see. All right, listen, I'm going to end it here. Tomorrow, I will really try to get this out. I think I will be able to, though. I will be able to. And that's going to be a solid episode that Candace Owens did in regards to her investigation into 9/11. And then I'm adding, a bunch of different things to it. That might end up being, a little over an hour. That's why I want to release it tomorrow on Friday. So if you need to break that up into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that'll give you the opportunity and the opportune time. All right, everybody, that's it. Call a spade a spade. keep the feedback coming in. Keep letting me know other things you want me to talk about. I genuinely enjoy this. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you get something from it. I really do. And like I said, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I am not trying to influence anything. All I'm trying to do is give you what I think is a nuanced, well thought out, well researched perspective on a variety of things. And you decide what you want to do with that information. All right. Call a spade a spade. Have a great day.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.